Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we extract the most important nuggets from our sources to get you well-informed, fast.
Glad to be here.
So today, we're tackling something pretty fundamental, this core belief many of us have.
That we're rational.
Logical.
Exactly. That we see the world clearly, as it really is. We like to think we're objective, aware of why we do things, not swayed by hidden stuff.
But is that true? Well, that very idea that we're perfectly rational, that's maybe the first big misconception our source today just blows apart.
Okay.
We're diving into David McRaney's book, You Are Not So Smart. And it makes this pretty bold claim. We're all, in a lot of ways, kind of deluded.
Deluded. Sound harsh.
Well, yeah, but he argues it's not necessarily a flaw. Sometimes this self-delusion actually helps keep us sane, helps us function.
Interesting. So our mission today is to unpack that. Explore how our minds really work, maybe in ways we don't expect.
That's the plan. The book suggests we kind of go through life making up these little stories, narratives, to explain ourselves, our actions, choices, feelings, right? Like we have a running commentary.
But a whole lot of research in psychology and cognitive science, it points somewhere else. It suggests we often have, very little conscious insight into what's really going on inside.
So we make up reasons after we do something.
Often, yeah. It's a process called confabulation. We'll get into that. But today, we're looking at some key things. These predictable thinking patterns, cognitive biases.
Mental shortcuts.
Right, heuristics. And also, just common flaws in reasoning. Logical fallacies.
Okay, so where do we start? Give us an example.
Let's test your logic right now. Yours listening to, it's a classic. Peter Wesson's selection task from way back in '77.
Okay, I'm ready. Or I think I am.
Imagine 4 cards on a table. Number on one side, color on the other. You see? A 3, 2, an 8, a red card, and a brown card.
Got it. 3, 8, red, brown.
Now, here's the rule you need to test. If a card has an even number on one side, then it must be red on the opposite side.
Okay, if even, then red.
So the question is, which card or cards do you absolutely have to flip over to prove definitively if that rule is true or false? Take a second. Think about it.
If even, then red. Okay. Well, you'd have to check the 8, friend, right, to see if it's red.
Yeah, makes sense.
And maybe the red card to see if it has an even number.
That's what most people think, the 8 and the red, or sometimes just the 8. Seems logical, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But here's the kicker. When Wasson ran this, fewer than 10% of people actually got it right.
10%? Seriously? So what's the right answer then?
The correct answer is you need to flip the 8 card and the brown card.
The brown card? Why the brown one?
Think about how you could break the rule, falsify it. If you flip the 8 and find it's, say, blue, the rule, if even, then red is broken.
Right. Okay.
Flipping the 3 doesn't help. Finding red or brown on its back doesn't affect the rule about even numbers.
True.
Flipping the red card. If it has an odd number, like 5, the rule isn't broken.
Yeah.
If it has an even number, like 6, it confirms the rule. But confirmation isn't what we need. We need to check for violations.
Okay. So finding an even number under the red card doesn't prove the rule is always true.
Exactly. But the brown card, that's crucial. If you flip the brown card and find an even number, say a 4, then you found an even number card that isn't red.
And that breaks the rule. Okay, I see it now. Wow. Only 10%.
Yep. It really shows something fundamental. We're maybe not as good at pure abstract logic as we assume.
Which is weird, right? Given everything humans have achieved. Complex societies, science.
Exactly. So McRaney suggests maybe our brains aren't optimized for that kind of abstract logic. But get this. Wesson tried a different version.
Oh.
Same logic, different context. The social one. Imagine you're a bartender. The rule is you must be 21 or older to drink alcohol.
Okay, familiar rule.
The cards now represent people. One shows 23 age, one shows beer, drink, one shows Coke, and one shows 17.
Right. 23, beer, Coke, 17.
Which cards do you need to check to make sure the law is being followed?
No, that's way easier. You check the person drinking beer, see if they're 21, and you check the 17-year-old, see what they're drinking.
Exactly. Almost everyone gets that right instantly. The 23-year-old.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what they drink. The person drinking Coke. Doesn't matter how old they are.
Yeah, you don't need to check those.
So what does this tell us? Our brains seem much, much better tuned for social rules, for spotting cheaters or violations in a social context, than for abstract logic puzzles.
That really does set the stage. Our minds are wired differently than we think.
Right, and that leads nicely into the next idea, priming.
Priming. Okay, what's the misconception here?
The misconception is that you know when you're being influenced, that you can tell how things are affecting your behavior.
But the truth is?
The truth, McRaney says, is you're often completely unaware of the constant nudges you get from ideas forming in your unconscious.
Like subliminal messages? Is that what we're talking about?
Not quite like hidden messages flashed on a screen, though. That's related. It's more subtle. Think about driving home on autopilot. Highway hypnosis.
Oh, yeah, I've done that. You just
Yeah.
arrive. No memory of the last few miles.
Right. Your conscious mind was checked out, but your unconscious was processing traffic, steering, braking, doing the work. Our brains operate on these parallel tracks, conscious and unconscious.
And priming influences the unconscious track.
Exactly. And it can be surprisingly powerful. There's this fascinating study from 2006, Zong and Liljenquist.
Okay.
They had participants recall a past unethical act, a sin, basically. Then half the group was offered a chance to wash their hands. The other half wasn't.
Oh, it's their hands. Okay.
And then later, everyone was asked if they'd volunteer for some unpaid research down the line, like help out the researchers later for free.
Oh, what happened?
The results were pretty stark. The group that didn't wash their hands, 74% agreed to help.
Okay, pretty generous.
But the group that did wash their hands, only 41% agreed.
Whoa, that's a big difference just from washing hands.
Yeah. The idea is that the physical act of washing unconsciously connected to the idea of moral cleansing, like washing away the guilt of the sin they recalled.
The Lady Macbeth effect.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
So feeling unconsciously cleaner, they felt less need to, atone by volunteering later. And crucially, they had no idea the hand washing influenced their decision. They just thought they either wanted to volunteer or they didn't.
That's slightly disturbing, but couldn't it be something else? Maybe the hand washing just, I don't know, took up time or distracted them, or maybe the groups were just different to start with.
That's always the question with these studies, right? But they use randomization, randomly assigned who got to wash. So the group should have been pretty similar beforehand in terms of general helpfulness.
Okay.
And the effect size, that big jump from 41% to 74%, is really hard to explain just by distraction alone. It points to something deeper.
Okay. Is there more evidence?
Definitely. Another great example, a 2003 study by Christian, Wheeler, Barg, and Ross.
Bit of a mouthful.
Got it. What do they do? Two groups, again. One group did a simple task involving neutral photos, kites, whales, things like that. The other group did the same task, but with business-related photos, briefcases, nice pens, boardroom tables.
So priming one group with business ideas, the other with neutral stuff.
Exactly. Then everyone played the ultimatum game. You get, say, $10, and you have to offer a split to another person who's actually an actor working with the researchers. If the other person accepts your offer, you both get the money. If they reject it, nobody gets anything.
Right. I know this game. People usually reject really low offers, like below 20%, even though it's illogical because some money's better than none.
Precisely. It taps into fairness. So what happened? The group primed with neutral photos. 91% of them offered an even 50-50 split.
Wow, pretty fair.
But the group primed with the business photos. Only 33% offered an even split. The rest, 2/3 of them, tried to keep more money for themselves.
Just from looking at pictures of briefcases?
Seems so. They even redid it with actual business objects in the room while people made their decisions. Same kind of result. 100% of the neutral group split evenly, but 50% of the business primed group tried to lowball the other person.
Okay, so did they know why they acted more competitively when asked?
Not a clue. When they debriefed them, asked why they offered what they did, nobody mentioned the objects or the photos.
So what did they say?
They confabulated. They made up reasons. Oh, I thought that seemed fair, or I was just trying to maximize my earnings, or I wasn't sure if the other person would accept. Totally plausible reasons, but they missed the actual unconscious nudge from the environment.
So priming works because it triggers, what, like networks of ideas in your brain?
Yeah, that's the idea. Seeing a briefcase might trigger concepts like competition, money, efficiency, self-interest, all unconsciously. And it works best when you're not really paying close attention when you're on that autopilot setting.
Which is why places like casinos are designed the way they are. All the sounds, the symbols of wealth, no clocks.
Exactly. Temples of priming. Or think about Coca-Cola using Santa Claus, associating their brand with warmth, family, tradition. Grocery stores piping in the smell of baking bread to make you feel hungry and maybe a bit nostalgic.
Advertisers building brand images, movie trailers setting a mood.
It's everywhere. The key thing McRaney points out is that your conscious mind is usually oblivious. You make up stories to explain yourself because you don't know about the unconscious advice you've received. And crucially, priming really only works if you don't notice it happening.
If you see the strings, the puppet doesn't dance.
Something like that, which leads us right into that idea we mentioned earlier, confabulation.
Okay, so the misconception here is
that you know when you're lying to yourself, or at least you know when you're inventing something.
And the truth is, we often don't.
Pretty much. McRaney says you're often ignorant of your real motivations, and you create these fictional narrative stories to explain your decisions, your feelings, even your own past, without realizing you're doing it.
Can you give an example? How does that work?
Think about your visual blind spot. You literally have a hole in your vision in each eye where the optic nerve connects. It's not small.
Right, but I don't see a hole in the world.
Exactly. Your brain just fills it in. It takes information from the surrounding area and guesses what should be there, seamlessly patching the hole. It's like automatic mental Photoshop happening constantly, totally outside your awareness.
Okay, that makes sense for vision. How does that relate to myself?
Well, that same filling in mechanism seems to apply to memory and maybe even our sense of self. Think about a memory from your childhood. How sure are you that it happened exactly like you remember it?
Uh-oh. Probably not very sure, if I'm honest. Especially if I talk to my siblings about it.
Right. Our memories often differ wildly from others' recollections of the same event. Yet we generally feel like we have a continuous, coherent self, a stable life story. McRaney argues this feeling of continuity is partly a lie nurtured by constant and unconscious confabulation.
So we're constantly editing and patching our own life story without knowing it.
It seems that way. We're always adding to the narrative of who we are, why we did things, to the point where it's hard to tell how much is accurate recall and how much is convenient storytelling.
Wow. Is there scientific evidence for that kind of internal storytelling?
Oh, yeah. Some of the most compelling evidence comes from split-brain patients. These are people who, usually to treat severe epilepsy, have the connection between their brain's left and right hemispheres, the corpus callosum surgically severed.
Okay, so the two halves of their brain can't directly communicate.
Right. Externally, they often seem fine. But researchers like Michael Gazzaniga and Roger Sperry did incredible experiments back in the 50s and later. For instance, information presented to the left eye goes to the right brain hemisphere, and vice versa. Language is typically processed in the left hemisphere.
Okay.
So if you flash the word truck very briefly just to the patient's left visual field, it only goes to the right hemisphere. You ask them what they saw, the speaking left hemisphere didn't see anything, so they'll say nothing.
But the right brain saw it.
Yes. And the right brain controls the left hand. So if you ask them to draw what they saw with their left hand, they might draw a truck.
Whoa.
And then seeing the drawing, the left hemisphere might go, oh, a truck. It figures it out indirectly.
That shows the disconnection. Where's the confabulation?
At this experiment, they flash bell to the left visual field, right brain, and music to the right visual field, left brain, simultaneously.
So right brain sees bell, left brain sees music.
Correct. Then they show 4 pictures, maybe a trumpet, drums, a church with bell towers, and a guitar, and ask the patient to point with their right hand, controlled by the speaking left hemisphere, to the picture related to the word they saw.
So the left hemisphere saw music. It should point to the guitar or trumpet, right?
You'd think. But often the patient points to the picture of the bell towers.
Mm-hmm. But why? The left brain didn't see bell.
Exactly. The right brain saw bell and somehow influenced the choice, maybe through subtle cross-cueing or just overriding. But here's the confabulation. When you ask the patient why they pointed to the bells, the speaking left hemisphere, which didn't see bell and doesn't know why the right hand pointed there, just invents a plausible reason.
Like what?
One famous answer was something like, oh, well, the last music I heard was the bells ringing from the college towers nearby.
It just made up a story to connect music, which it saw, to bells, which it pointed out.
Precisely. The left hemisphere acts as an interpreter, constantly trying to make sense of our actions, even when it doesn't have all the information. It creates a narrative, a reason, and believes it. And the right hemisphere doesn't object.
So our own brains do this all the time, just maybe less dramatically?
That's the implication. Your brain is constantly generating explanations for your feelings, your actions, your history, especially when the true causes are unconscious or unknown. That's how your self gets built. McRaney calls it like a movie based on true events.
Not necessarily false, but embellished, edited for coherence.
Yeah, maybe smoothed over, rationalized. It's not inherently bad. It helps us function, maintain a stable sense of who we are. but it's definitely not the objective truth we often assume it is.
Okay. That's a lot to chew on. What's next?
Let's talk confirmation bias.
I think I know this one. The misconception is
That your opinions are the solid result of years of rational, objective analysis, weighing all the evidence fairly.
and the truth, according to McRaney.
The truth is probably closer to this. Your opinions are the result of years of paying attention, mostly to information that confirmed what you already believed.
While ignoring or downplaying or forgetting information that challenged your beliefs.
You got it. It's like, have you ever learned a new word or noticed a specific model of car, and then suddenly you see it everywhere?
Oh, totally. The Bader-Meinhof phenomenon,
Yeah.
right? Or frequency illusion.
Exactly. It's not that the car or word suddenly became more common. It's that you were filtering it out before, and now your attention is tuned to it. You're confirming its presence while still ignoring all the other cars and words you aren't focused on. That's passive confirmation bias.
Makes sense. It's just noticing things that fit our current focus.
Right. But it gets more active and maybe more problematic when we deliberately seek out confirmation. Think about political punditry.
Okay.
McRaney argues that whole industry is largely built on confirmation bias. People tune into commentators who already share their worldview. They're not really looking for news, as in new, challenging information. They're looking for old confirmation that what they already think is correct.
Yeah, you hear people talk about finding news sources that align with their values.
Which often means sources that confirm their biases. There was research by Valdez Krebs looking at Amazon book buying patterns.
What did it show?
People who bought politically liberal books also tended to buy other liberal books. People who bought conservative books bought other conservative books. Very little crossover. People were buying books to reinforce their existing views, not to explore opposing ones.
We built echo chambers for ourselves.
We really do.
Yeah.
And it even affects how we remember things.
How so?
There was this study back in '79, Snyder and Cantor. They had people read a detailed story about a fictional woman named Jane. Jane did some things that seemed introverted and some things that seemed extroverted. A mix.
Okay, a complex character.
A few days later, they brought the participants back. They asked one group, based on what you read, would Jane be a good fit for a job as a librarian?
Librarian. Stereotype is introverted.
Right. So that group recalled mostly Jane's introverted behaviors from the story to support their assessment. Then they asked another group, would Jane be a good fit as a real estate agent?
Real estate agent. Stereotype is extroverted.
And that group selectively remembered Jane's extroverted actions. But here's the kicker. Even when they then asked the librarian group about the real estate job, they still tended to focus on the introverted traits they'd already retrieved, arguing she wouldn't be a good fit, and vice versa for the other group.
Wow. So just framing the question differently made them selectively access and reinforce certain memories over others.
Exactly. We retrieve memories that support even newly formed beliefs or assessments, and then we stick to them. It shows how actively we seek consistency, how we filter the past through the lens of the present.
So the big takeaway on confirmation bias is be aware.
Be aware that you're doing it. You naturally seek confirming evidence and avoid challenging evidence. It makes you feel more confident in your beliefs than you maybe should be. The only way to get closer to, reality or truth is to actively look for the evidence that contradicts you.
Which is uncomfortable.
Very, but probably necessary.
So wrapping this all up, this journey through You Are Not So Smart. It seems the core message is that our minds have these built-in patterns. Priming, confabulation, confirmation bias.
Yeah, predictable ways of thinking that shape how we see things, how we decide things, even who we think we are. And mostly it happens under the radar, without our conscious knowledge.
And it's crucial to remember this isn't about being dumb or flawed in a bad way.
Not at all. It's about understanding how this incredibly complex machine, the human mind, actually works. Its quirks, its shortcuts, its storytelling nature.
And accepting those quirks, maybe that gives us a bit more power. If you know the pattern, you can start to look for it.
Exactly. Awareness is the first step. You're not just passively experiencing your thoughts. You can become an observer of them. And maybe, just maybe, start to choose differently once you see the mechanism at play.
It leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it?
It really does. So for you listening, knowing now that your mind is constantly spinning these tales, constantly filtering reality through these biases, what new truths might you be ready to find about yourself, about the world?
If you deliberately start looking for the patterns, the evidence, the stories you don't naturally want to see.
What might you discover then?